I got a lot of comments asking the same question on 2 videos I recently posted about secondary dominants, which are linked below. So I wanted to make this video to answer that question. The question being asked is, why do I choose the dominant 7 chord for the 5 chord instead of just a regular major chord when it comes to thinking of chords as Roman numerals? Let me give a little more context so it makes more sense. So first, let's just talk about what are diatonic chords. They are a family of chords connected to a certain key, and each major and minor key has its own set of diatonic chords. And these diatonic chords can be either triad chords, meaning chords that only have 3 notes in them, or 7th chords, which are chords that have 4 notes in them. I have some videos that break this down in much greater detail, which I've linked below. So check those videos out if you find yourself confused at all or not understanding any of this terminology in this video. I'm going to write out the diatonic chords in the key of G major as both triads and 7th chords. So here are the diatonic chords in the key of G major as triads, and those chords are G major, A minor, B minor, C major, D major, E minor, and F sharp diminished. That little circle is a symbol for diminished. And then those diatonic chords as 7th chords are right here. So G major 7, A minor 7, B minor 7, C major 7, D 7, D dominant 7 is its full name, E minor 7, and F sharp half diminished 7. Okay? So we have our diatonic chords in the key of G major written out as both triads and 7th chords. And when it comes to thinking of chords and chord progressions as Roman numerals, we can basically use either option. You know, whether you're playing a B minor chord or a B minor 7 chord, it's still serving more or less the same harmonic function as that 3rd degree of the key. And when I say 3rd degree, I mean it is truly the 3rd degree in the scale of the key. See, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And here are the Roman numerals written above. So this is the 1 chord, 2 chord, 3 chord, 4 chord, 5 chord, 6 chord, and 7th chord. You know, B minor 7 is very similar to B minor. It has a slightly different color to it. It has a slightly jazzier sound to it, but overall it's serving the same harmonic function. Now, in my video about secondary dominants, people noticed that I was writing all of the chords in the chord progressions as triads, except for the 5 chord. So for instance, let's say I wanted to write out the chord progression 2, 5, 1, okay? I could, here, I'll write it like this, 2, 5, 1, okay? I could choose to interpret this chord progression as A minor, and then D, and then G, like that. So the 2 chord here, A minor, the 5 chord here, D major, and then the 1 chord is G, right? But instead, I was writing it out as A minor, D7, and then G. So I was writing it like this, with a D7 instead of a D major chord. And people wanted to know why I was choosing to use the D7 chord instead of a regular D major chord, because the rest of the chords I was using were triads. It's not like I was doing A minor 7, D7, and then G major 7, right? I wasn't doing that where they were all 7th chords. No, I was doing everything a triad except for the 5 chord. So people wanted to know why. And the reason is because the D7 chord has an even stronger dominant function than the D major chord. So what does dominant and dominant function mean? Dominant means relating to the 5th degree of the scale. So just remember that dominant equals 5th degree. Okay, so the 5th degree in the key of G would be D, right? D7 or D. That's the 5th, right? D is our 5th. D is our dominant. And the role of the dominant is to lead us back home to the tonic, also known as the root, okay? So in this key, both D major and D7 are the dominant chords, and both of them lead us back home to the root, or the tonic, which is G. You know, this D and this D7, they lead us back home to G. However, D7 has an even stronger push to resolve back home to the G compared to the regular D major chord. So therefore, D7 has an even stronger dominant function than regular old D major. And why is this? Well, it has to do with tension and resolution. So I think it's easiest to see this on the piano. So music is all about tension and resolution. And when we play the dominant chord, we are creating a lot of tension that wants to get resolved back home to the tonic. So let's compare what happens when we play D major resolving to G versus D7 resolving to G, okay? Okay, so we're in the key of G major. So this is our home bass, this is our tonic. Okay, so when I play the chord D major, I'm playing D, F sharp, and A, okay? And then when I play the chord G major, the D can stay the same, the F sharp only needs to move a half step to get to the note G, and then the note A can move up to B. So we resolve back to G. So from D major to G, okay? So as you can hear, this transition from D major to G major certainly has a lot of tension and resolution, especially because that F sharp note is only a half step away from the note G, right? So it's really creating a lot of tension there. That F sharp really wants to resolve to that G, right? It's really creating a lot of tension because those pitches are so close together. But now let's listen to D7, D dominant 7, resolving to G, okay? So the notes in D7 are D, F sharp, A, and C. So 3 of the notes in D7 are the same as in D major, right? These 3 notes, D, F sharp, and A, that's a D major. The only difference between D major and D dominant 7, or D7, is that we add this note C, right? So that's what makes it a D7 chord. And because we have this C that we've added, we now have a tritone interval within the chord between the notes F sharp and C. So that interval is what we call a tritone. And so that alone already creates more tension. Because tritones are naturally very tense intervals, right? And just a quick side note, if you don't know what tritones are and you want to learn more about them, go check out my interval series videos, which are linked in the description below. And another thing is that this note C in our D7 chord is only a half step away from the note B in our G chord. So it's a half step away from resolving to the B, okay? So in the D7 chord, I have the C resolving a half step down to B, and then I have the note F sharp resolving a half step up to G, right? To play, to go to G major. So listen to that now. That is a lot stronger, right? So now we have 2 notes that are moving a half step just to reach our tonic chord of G major. And so this is why the dominant 7 chord has a stronger dominant function than just a regular major chord. So what I'm saying is that is why D7 has a stronger dominant function leading us to G than just D major leading us to G. In my secondary dominance videos, I mentioned that the dominant sort of rolls out a red carpet for the tonic to walk down, right? So when I play this D7, it's sort of rolling out a red carpet for our G major chord to make its entrance and say, ta-da, here I go, yeah, here I am, right? And that D7 chord, it just makes it's a brighter red, it's a fluffier carpet, it's a bigger, more grand carpet to let our G make its entrance on. So that is why oftentimes, and it's not just me, I'm not the only one doing this, that is why oftentimes people will be using just triad chords, but then for the 5 chord, they will use the D7 instead of the D. They will use that dominant 7 chord for the 5th degree instead of just a regular D major chord. Both are correct as the dominant chord, like both D7 and D are performing the dominant function. However, D7 is just a stronger choice. So oftentimes I will put a D7 there instead of just a regular D major. If you're enjoying this video so far, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and leave a comment to say hey. If you're feeling a bit confused so far, don't worry, that just means you need to review some of the basics a little bit longer. So I strongly recommend you watch my other videos about these topics, because I promise that if you do, this will all become much more clear and make total sense. So I have a whole music theory playlist on my YouTube channel, which I can link in the description below. And if you watch my videos in the order of that playlist, the information will build on top of itself. So I strongly recommend watching that music theory playlist and those music theory videos in that order of the playlist. I also have a Patreon with additional PDFs, practice worksheets, quizzes, all kinds of fun stuff that you can check out below as well to help you practice all this fun stuff. Okay, now let's check out the same thing but in the key of C major. So I'm going to write out diatonic chords in the key of C major. Okay, so here we are now in the key of C major. I have the diatonic chords in the key of C major written out as triads and as seventh chords, okay? So we have C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, and B diminished. And as seventh chords, we have C major 7. That little triangle is a shorthand symbol for major, by the way. So C major 7, D minor 7, E minor 7, F major 7, G7 or G dominant 7, A minor 7, and B half diminished 7. So that's a little shorthand symbol for half diminished, okay? And the chords we're going to be focusing on right now is that 5 chord, the dominant, right? So that's G and G7. And then the tonic chord, which is C or C major 7. So the 1 chord, okay? So I'm going to play 5 to 1, 5 to 1, okay? And I'm going to play first just G to C, regular G major to C major, and then I'm going to play G7 to C major, okay? So we can hear the difference between that regular G major chord and then that G dominant 7 chord, okay? To hear what G to C sounds like, this is what it sounds like. So to G major chord is G, B, and D, okay? And to get from G to C, well, our G can actually stay the same because we have a G in both chords. So the note G is in both chords, okay? The note B can move just a half step up to C, and then the note D can move up to E. So we have G major to C major, okay? It's nice, right? The G, it's serving a dominant function by leading us back home to C. It's nice. It's rolling out a red carpet, right? But now let's listen to G7 to C, okay? So G7 is this. So G, B, D, and F, okay? So now check this out. I have the B moving a half step up to C, and then I also have the F is moving a half step to E. So I have 2 notes that are moving a half step. This F is moving a half step to E, and the B is moving a half step to C. And this is our tritone. Tritone. That's our special tritone interval, creating lots of tension, right? So I have here 2. It's just stronger, right? It's a stronger. It's just a very strong red carpet rolling out for our tonic, right? So that's a G7 to C, okay? So hopefully it's helpful to hear it in this key as well. And just to tie this all together with the secondary dominant videos that I made, because we had been talking about 5 of 5 chords. So the 5 of 5, like if I had 5 of 5 going to 5 and then to the 1 chord, I'm going to erase this. So we have 5 of 5 going to the 5, going to the 1. This would be our D7 going to G7 and then going to C, okay? If you don't know what I'm talking about when I say 5 of 5, go watch my videos on secondary dominants, which are linked in the description below. It's going to take too long for me to explain it right here in this video. I wish I could re-explain everything in every video, but otherwise my videos would be hours and hours long, every single one of them. So go watch that video if you don't know what I'm talking about when I say 5 of 5. But to describe it very quickly, so G7 is the 5th degree of C, right? If in the key of C, G7, 1, C, D, E, F, G, right? It's the 5th degree of C, right? G is the 5th of C. Now, what's the 5th of G? Well, now we have to think of a G major scale. G, A, B, C, D. Okay, D is the 5th degree of G. So that's why D7 is the 5th degree of G, so it's the 5 of the 5. So we're thinking about in the key of C, the 5th degree of the 5th degree is D7, okay? If you still have no idea what I'm talking about, please go watch that video and then it will make all the sense in the world, okay? But anyway, moving forward, so we have our D7 to G7 to C. So let's just play those now, and we can really hear that those dominant 7 chords working their magic and rolling the red carpets out, right? So we have D7, D7, so that's D, F sharp, A, and C, leading us to G7, which is D, F, G, and B, and then leading us to C major, which is E, G, C. Got it? So let's listen to that one more time. Very nice. And if it's helpful for you to see these chords written out on the staff, here we have the 5 chord going to the 1 chord in the key of G major. We have the 5 chord going to the 1 chord in the key of C major. Here we have the 5 of 5 chord going to the 5 chord going to the 1 chord within the key of C major. And just to clarify, I did use some chord inversions here, and that is just to highlight the movement of a half step between some of these chords, okay? So that's why I did choose to use chord inversions, if you're wondering. I just wanted to highlight that half step movement happening between the 5 and the 1. That is it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully this video has been helpful and it cleared up that question that so many of you guys have been asking. If you like this video, please share it with a friend. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up, leave a comment. All those things really help my channel a lot. And if you're new here, hello and welcome. My name is Gracie Terzian and I post 1 video a week here on YouTube. And I would love to have you as a subscriber if you enjoyed this video. Thank you guys again so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day or night, and I will see you next week.